Hello everyone and welcome to a brand new episode of the Sports Insight with your host AlamdarKhan. And yes, as you know, we give you sports information from all across the globe. You guys can surely reach out to us on our social media handle, which is at the rate of Indus News Sports. That basically works both for Twitter and for Instagram. But anyways, we'll go to the headlines first. And yes, from the world of cricket, ICC is in contact with the Emirates Cricket Board to move the upcoming ICC World T20 from India to the UAE because of the COVID-19 rise. Pakistan versus Zimbabwe. The second test will start from Friday. Pakistan is leading the series 1-0. And yes, from the world of Premier League, West Ham United beat Burnley 2-1 on Monday. And yes, from the world of tennis, British number one Dan Evans won against the Frenchman Jeremy Hardy as reached the second round of the Madrid Open on Monday. And yes, from the world of NBA, Golden State Warriors beat the Pelicans 123-108 on Tuesday. And yes, those were the headlines, and not to forget that, yes, to start with the world of cricket and talking about the T20. Yes, the World Cup T20 is still in a fix right now. Things are very complicated, and things are getting very complicated in India. BCCI is still in talking terms, and obviously ICC is also in talking terms, ensuring that, how can they manage it in India. And still, with regards to that, we've heard from different sources. Obviously, we went through a lot of information gathering with regards to that there is a major possibility of it switching over to the UAE. Anyways, to discuss more of this in the world of cricket, we have with us Sikandar Baq. Sikandar, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
So I'd start off with the first take and first thing that I started discussing the World Cup T20. How is the entire situation that is we all are going through the COVID-19 situation around the world? And yes, in terms of India, they were supposed to be hosting the event in October, but situations have been really bad. So how do you see this development? Because there's a major possibility of it being switched over to the UAE.
Yes, there is, and UAE was always an alternate in case there was any problem of this sort. So yes, UAE will be the first priority or first choice if it doesn't go or happen in India. Now we know that we've learned today that the IPL has been suspended till further notice. So this will obviously raise some question marks. But we don't know about the pandemic wave. How long will it last? We've got around 5 months for the World T20 to take place. And I'm very sure that in the next month or so, ICC and BCCI will have a careful look into it as to what the situation or the ground reality is in India. And then accordingly, they will make a decision. But UAE always was the second option, which will be available.
But if we look into the situation, managing this biosecure bubble, it has been a very technical thing. If you remember, even Australians decided not to go to the Proteas, and obviously Pakistan went there. But even then, in generally, when you're doing a big league, even when we talk about IPL, when we talk about PSL, we have seen what happened with PSL. Obviously, it was delayed, and now they intend to start it again. How do you see? Because don't you think this IPL was probably the first step towards, them hosting the World Cup?
Well, indeed it is. See, you can't do much. A pandemic, it cannot be airtight. You can only try and make it happen as much as possible in the best possible way. Right. But you can't really be rest assured and be 100% sure that this will not come into your tournament or your event. It has happened with PSL. It has happened today. Finally, the correct decision has been taken. I guess that the COVID-19 is a harsh reality. And we've got to start learning to work around it. And that is what people are doing, not just in sports, day-to-day life, going to work or anything like that. So whoever is organizing a tournament, whether it's PSL or IPL, are keeping these things in mind, that they have to be very careful about how they want to operate. I believe, I'm not there in India, but I believe that why this has happened to a certain extent is because there's a lot of traveling of the teams from one venue to another. And we're not really sure what happens. I mean, I don't know what the arrangements over there are, but then the baggage handling, who's doing that when they're traveling from one city to another, and so on and so forth. So yes, there might be chances that there will be a bit of a leak it's better to have something like this if anybody wants to do it in one venue, so that you don't have to move about and then try to reduce the risks. Talking about the Proteas having problems with Australia, leaving them and not doing it. See, it's a different thing. Leagues
Right.
are different. That's individual player decision. And when you
Right.
come to bilateral series, it's a board decision. So I don't know why and under what circumstances Australia decided to go back. They must have felt something. Pakistan went there. It was a board decision. No player will be forced if they don't want to go.
Right.
And that's what happened back then also. We over here in Zimbabwe are in a bubble, the teams and us. And alhamdulillah, everything is fine and it's being looked after very well. And that is why we're not doing anything in Bulawayo. Only one venue, which is Harare. And we're keeping it strictly to that ground and hoteling ground.
Right. So let's talk more about, we started talking about Pakistan versus Zimbabwe and touring, and so far so good. We're sure that there is no problem right now. Obviously, they're two individual teams and they've kept themselves in Harare. So what's your take on, let's start from the T20 that actually took place. Pakistan, even though managed to win, but it had been a tough journey for Pakistan cricket team in terms of the T20 to begin with. So what's your take on that?
I've had a couple of shows from here on various channels, and I probably will sound repetitive, but again, the things don't change. Pakistan flew in from South Africa into Zimbabwe. That's what we saw, and that's what the players also believed, that the wickets were different. Pakistan was expecting it to be similar to South Africa, but it wasn't to be. The wicket was slightly too paced and on the slower side, and Pakistan took a game and a half to realize that.
Right.
Because they were going hard at the ball. They were trying to hit every ball outside and trying to get a bigger score, which is the usual T20 scores, 150, 160. But then they had to put their heads together and they realized that over here, winning score is 119, 118, which was the case.
Right.
And I guess that they fine-tuned and polished the areas they had to and won the series. So I suppose the slowness of the wicket or the two-pace wicket that they got in Harare took them by surprise. And Zimbabwe, on the other hand, was well prepared. They bounced them pretty well in the first game, and Pakistan was taken aback a little bit.
Right. If we talk about the second game, obviously that was one of the most interesting games that at least I have seen, because we talk about the same Pakistan, we talk about the same Babar Azam, we talk about the same Mohammad Rizwan. Obviously, all out on 99 was surely an upsetting moment for us all, because it was the same team that actually managed to chase 200 plus against the Proteas. So I surely do agree with your point of view, because that's something that I personally thought too, that the wicket was slow and I think they were maybe expecting it to be more faster. But my question would be, we still have that middle order batsman issue. And when will that issue be addressed to a point that we have that stability in terms of our batting side?
Well, if you're talking about T20s, Pakistan is still assessing and trying to find the best combination before the World T20. Had we completed PSL, we would have had a greater idea that who are the players, potential players who can be taken to India or wherever the World Cup is going to be. Right. But since we only played for 10 days and then PSL was suspended, so we couldn't fairly get an idea. That's one. Number two, Pakistan is in a good position that their top three is performing. So their middle order really has not been tested. When you talk about tested, I believe if your middle order is being exposed somewhere around the last 2-3 overs, everyone expects that you'll go out there and start hitting the ball big. Right. And yes, you will lose wickets in that as well. Babar Azam himself was of the opinion, yes, that there is a bit of a concern about the middle order, but that's not that they're not informed. It's about finding everyone the right order or the right place in the batting. And I guess that they would probably curb that. Pakistan right now has a good problem in hand, and that is that Rizwan is in good form, Babar is in good form, they've got Fakhr Zaman in good form, and they are flexible batsmen. They can go up and down. We saw that Babar Azam sacrificed his opening slot just to test what's good. They also tried Sharjeel. So I believe that Pakistan will find the best combination, and it will help them if the PSL completes, and they'll find the best 15 to take to the World Cup.
Right. You absolutely said something very interesting that I also think that Pakistan needs to understand the order of the batsmen to ensure how they can actually perform. And let's talk about the test match, of course. And if we talk about the test match, I'd surely want to talk not only about Fawad Alam, but I would also want to talk about Hassan Ali.
Yeah.
So Fawad Alam obviously proving himself to where he is and his mettle for now. He's been through a tough time, and yet there's so many other players that, if we start talking about, they are going through that tough time. But now he's come up to the point of proving his mettle. So what's your take on Fawad Alam in person?
Well, I personally believe that Fawad Alam is one sportsman who's mentally very strong. And I think the wait that he had to do, 88 test matches, he was waiting to get another chance, has made him even tougher. And once he got that opportunity, I always believe that opportunities come everyone's way.
Right.
It's all about the individual if they grab it with both hands. And I think Fawad Alam has done that. And since he's so mentally tough, he uses it to his liking, and he adopts in different conditions. He did well in New Zealand. He did well against South Africa. In Pakistan, that of course will be his home ground. He's played a lot of cricket at the National Stadium. And then over here also, he adopted. He started off slow. You tend to feel that there's a game plan that he has in his mind when he comes out to bat. He understands the situation. He understands what the team needs, and then he accordingly accelerates or decelerates his innings, and it's working for him. And I guess hats off to him, because you or me would try to label it that he's a player who can only perform at home. No, he's done it, like I said, New Zealand, in Zimbabwe,
True.
Against South Africa at home. So he's doing well. I think the management and the board is also backing him up pretty well. So yeah, good for Pakistan, good for him.
Yep.
And as for Hassan Ali,
yes, Hassan Ali. Yeah.
Another person who I would again say, you require mental toughness, because as an international player, not only you get fatigued with the travels, with the kind of workload that you're given, but also you want to maintain your place in the 11, and that plays as a pressure on any individual. And with Hassan Ali, I saw him at the Quaid-e-Azam Trophy when he was not a part of the Pakistan squad, and the way he, by chance, he got to lead Central Punjab, and the way he led the side, the way he batted, the way he wants to prove a point, there is a hunger in him, not just with the ball, but with the bat as well. He wants to be known as a known all-rounder, and he's working towards it. So, like I say, a lot of people ask that, what does body language mean? Body language is a simple thing. We can see it in Hassan Ali. You could always see in a player where the shoulders are drooped. You walk into a ground or walk into a field knowing it's tough to beat the opposition. You got to have self-belief, and I think Hassan Ali has proved it time and again since the Quaid-e-Azam Trophy that he is a fighter. And not only he fought against his injuries, but he's come back strongly, winning Man of the Match awards, doing well in the longest format, doing well in the shortest format, and he's very well understood his role in the team as well.
Right. Anyways, Sikandar, thank you so much for being a part of the show and discussing the world of cricket with us.
Thank you so much for having me.
Great. So obviously, as discussed the whole situation from the world of cricket, yes, we started off talking about major possibility of the World T20 to move to UAE. Obviously discussed that, and obviously discussed Pakistan versus Zimbabwe. Anyways, what we'll do is we'll take a quick break, and once we're back from the break, there is more to come. See you guys after the break. And yes, welcome back from the break. And before the break, we were discussing the world of cricket, but as you know, we talk about sports and sports from all across the globe. So we're going to talk more about what's happening in the world of Premier League. And not only Premier League, we'll surely be talking about the Champions League as well to discuss the real happening in the world of football in the Premier League. We have with us Ali Epson. Ali, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Great. So I'll start off with, obviously we start off talking more about the Premier League right now. I'd want to have your take on the West Ham's victory over Burnley, which was 2-1, and it happened on Monday. So obviously they have now gone way above Tottenham to begin with. They are now above Tottenham, and Tottenham is on number 6 in the chart. So what's your take on this match? Because we're left with very few matches in the kitty now.
Yeah, exactly. And I think for West Ham, it was a vital win to keep their chances of finishing in the top 4 alive. I think if you look at themselves, Leicester and Chelsea, West Ham would appear to have the easier run-in. So getting back to winning ways for them is really important. And from their point of view, they will hope it's a sign of things to come. And I mean, it wasn't the prettiest of wins, but they got the result they needed, and that's all that really matters. And 2 well-taken goals from Antonio, who's been one of their best performers this season, and kind of gone under the radar since Jesse Lingard burst on the scene, but is a really seasoned and top-level Premier League operator who deserves credit for how important he's been for West Ham this season.
Absolutely. But if we look back into things, the top 4 are obviously all the teams are fighting for that. So how many matches are there currently left in terms of getting there? Because when we talk about Manchester City, obviously they still are on the top, they're still on fire, and we all know how things are flowing out for them. But with regards to the rest of the teams, they're still struggling. But I've been seeing these top four remain this way when we talk about Manchester City, Manchester United, Leicester City, and Chelsea to be on the top four. So how much effort I think West Ham needs to actually get into the top four to begin with?
Yeah, I mean, it would be a great achievement for them. The thing in their favour is that Leicester and Chelsea have still got to play. So obviously, both of those teams can't win that match. So there are going to be drop points at some stage. And West Ham, I think that their remaining games are against Everton, Brighton, West Brom and Southampton. Obviously, it's a lot easier said than done, but they're all games that West Ham would expect to be winning, whereas I think Leicester and Chelsea have got more challenging games against both each other and sides like Tottenham and Manchester United. So from West Ham's point of view, I think if they can win out their remaining games, they'll likely get in the top four, you would imagine, and that has to be the aim for them. Obviously it's not in their destiny. It's not in their hands. They can't control their own destiny, but they've just got to head into every game to try and win. And you imagine they've got a fairly decent chance of doing that. And then they've just got to hope Leicester and Chelsea drop points. And Leicester were in a very similar position last season and did indeed drop quite a lot of points and drop out of the top four. So I think West Ham certainly still have a chance. Tottenham probably not so. I mean, they're further behind than West Ham, and you would just have a lot less faith in how they've been playing lately.
Right.
But yeah, West Ham.
But to be honest, even now I still see, obviously they'll all be struggling for that top four. It's technically going to be very hard to see even Chelsea lose or even Leicester City lose. So it's going to be very tricky for West Ham to get there on the top four, if I'm not wrong.
It will be, yeah. But I think from their point of view, all like I say, all they can do is win their games and hope other things go their way. But I mean, even fifth place would be an excellent season for them. It's just obviously when it looked like they might get top four, it would be slightly disappointing to miss out.
Right. And what's your take on the other match that actually took place? Let's talk about West Brom, who actually managed to draw against the Wolves.
I would say this is a game that sort of encapsulates both of their seasons, in that a 1-1 draw is obviously it's better than losing, and certainly given that it's a local derby, the fans will be glad not to have lost to their rivals and given them the bragging rights. But I think it encapsulates both their seasons, and that it was quite a disappointing result and underwhelming. Obviously West Brom aren't technically relegated yet, but they're certainly heading that way, and it seems highly unlikely that they've got any chance of staying up, really.
Right.
And I think Wolves have had an underwhelming season. They've struggled with injuries. Obviously, they've had a very long season in terms of their Europa League involvement, and the fact that they were involved in the Europa League last season and didn't get much of a break. So I think if you're being kind to them, you'd hope that they can have a bit of a break in the summer.
Right. Talking about this interesting thing that I was surely thinking about this earlier when we were discussing Premier League. Not to forget, if we talk about the rivalries, there was this one match that was supposed to happen. Let's talk about when Liverpool actually had to face Manchester United. Obviously, that match has now been postponed. If you remember, there was a lot of at Old Trafford, a lot of people were there blazing fire and stuff. So what's your take on their in rivalry as in overall? Because Liverpool obviously lies on the number 7th anyways, and Manchester United is surely way above them. So what's your take on the match that was supposed to happen but now is postponed?
Well, I mean, it's a fascinating case. I mean, the reason it didn't happen, the protest was less to do with the fact they were playing Liverpool, I think, and more to do with general dissatisfaction with the ownership of Man United and the direction that the Glazers have taken the club. But certainly this is, the Premier League's showpiece match. So to stop it going ahead is a huge event and a huge coup for the demonstrators, really. I think the interesting thing is that what the protesters were protesting about still remains. Obviously, the Glazers haven't got up and sold the club the next day. So just where this goes from here, whether this is a recurring theme and there are people protesting at every Man United game and trying to stop the team arriving at the stadium and stop the games going ahead, or whether this is kind of like a one-off event where the enthusiasm has burned out. I think that would be fascinating. I mean, in terms of on the pitch, like you say, I mean, Man United have had a much better season than Liverpool and have been the superior team. this side, but I wouldn't rule Liverpool out moving forward. I think that there've been quite unique circumstances this season, and I think that it is very possible that they.
But if we talk about their relationship in terms of, let's talk about their rivalry to begin with. Liverpool, obviously, in this season, they just could not get there where they mostly are. Looking at their performance from being the champions to coming up to a point of number 7 on the charts, how do you see that in the long run for Liverpool?
Well, I think in the long run, they should have more of their defenders fit. Certainly Van Dijk returning and Gomez returning will be a big boost. And if you're being charitable with Liverpool, you'd hope that is those injuries to the defenders are the main reason they've struggled this season. Like I say, I will certainly wouldn't expect them to be this poor going forward. But I think you never really know, and you're certainly disappointed with how someone like Thiago has fared when he's arrived, and certainly the financial situation of Liverpool doesn't suggest that they're going to be spending heaps of money in the summer to bring in new players. So, like you say, I mean, it's been a disaster really this season for them. But I think what they did last season is more indicative of the side they are now, rather than how they've played this season. I think a fresh start, get someone like Sadio Mane back in form, and I would certainly be expecting them to be in the top 4, and most likely. I still think they're in a better position to challenge Man City for the title next season.
Well, looking forward for that challenge for sure. Looking forward to see that challenge. I'm sure that if Van Dijk is back, things are in place. Maybe things may shape up for them. I just want to have a quick word with regards to the Champions League. Let's talk about the 2 semi-finals that have actually, obviously, the leg ones done. So, what's your take on the first match, which was Real Madrid versus Chelsea, that happened on the 28th of April? And obviously, we'd surely be talking about the next match as well. So, what's your take on the situation for Chelsea and Real Madrid?
I think it's an interesting one because Chelsea obviously played quite well in the game, and they may well be disappointed with a 1-1 result because they'll feel that they should have made their dominance count and perhaps won the first leg. And similarly, I think Real Madrid will be disappointed because obviously when you're playing at home, you would expect to win. So it's very evenly poised. I mean, it's hard to really know. It's hard to predict. Real Madrid have obviously, they've got so much Champions League, especially with Zidane, and you often just feel that they will find a way to grind out the result. But it's a tie that could go either way, which I think is what's so fascinating about it and why it is so evenly poised, because you'd say it is advantage Chelsea, but it's a very slim advantage, and they only have the 1 away goal. So an early goal for Real Madrid would completely turn it on its head, and they're in the driving seat.
So it's going to be very interesting for them. It's going to be tougher for them, obviously, now going to the other side and scoring, obviously, an extra goal just to ensure that they're at the lead. What's your take on the second semi-final, leg 1, which was obviously PSG versus Manchester City? And not to forget, PSG also got a red card, which is obviously going to be a disaster for them in the second leg.
Yes, PSG having a bit of a mental meltdown in the Champions League. Stop me if you heard that one before. I mean, you could say the same thing about Manchester City, and I think this is what makes this one interesting, is that Manchester City appear in a great position to finally get to the Champions League final after so many years of trying and so many years of sort of blowing up in the Champions League and just having these baffling defeats where Guardiola tries something strange and it doesn't work, and you don't know why they don't just do what they normally do in the Premier League and walk over teams. I think that will be the big question going into this second leg. Can Man City just behave, for want of a better word, and do what you would expect them to, and just keep it tight,
right?
Play their usual game. They should have enough to get past PSG, but when you've got the likes of Mbappe, especially, and Neymar, PSG are an incredibly dangerous side and can score out of nothing really. So it's far from over. It's certainly advantage Manchester City, but if you were looking for examples of Manchester City having the advantage in the Champions League and just throwing it all away, you wouldn't have to look very far. So
right.
I think
Ali, thank you so very much. Obviously, we have the second leg of the semi-final coming up tomorrow, and then the second leg of Chelsea Real Madrid on the May 6th. We surely will discuss the second leg soon with you. Thank you very much for being a part of the show.
No worries, thank you.
Yes, so that was Ali Everson. Yes, he obviously talked about the same situation for the Champions League. It's interesting to see how things are developing, and don't forget that Manchester City and PSG's match is tomorrow, which is going to be the second leg. So let's see how it develops, but definitely it's going to develop more strongly. up till now for Manchester City. But anyways, that was from the world of football. Quickly jump over to the world of tennis. Yes, Dan Evans won against the Frenchman Jeremy Chardy in Madrid Open. And not to forget that Jeremy Chardy lost by 7-6, which is 8-6, 6-7, which is 7-9, and 6-2 against the Evans. And Dan Evans defeated Chardy for the third time this year. And the British number one, Dan Evans, has never won a Madrid title before. So it is going to be interesting because he's actually reached the second round of the Madrid Open. It's going to be a major development for him with regards to how he wants to get this title, because he's not got this title as yet. So this was from the world of tennis. I'll quickly jump over to the world of NBA. Yes, Golden State Warriors actually beat the Pelicans 123 to 108 on Tuesday. And Damon Green also added 10 points, 15 assists, and 13 rebounds. And Steph Curry scored 41 points against the Pelicans. Steph Curry is surely trying to get there. There have been major ups and downs for him, but lately he's definitely doing his very best. And Curry also made a few records that, he actually came up to a point of making one record and then breaking one record. So it's going to be an interesting take for him. And the Pelicans currently hold the 11th position in the Western Conference ranking. Let's see how things flow for them, because obviously the playoffs are nearby. All the teams are actually trying to struggle to ensure that they get there. Wish them all the very best. Anyways, guys, if you want to reach out to us, you can do that on social media handle, which is @Indus News Sports. That works for Twitter and for Instagram. Anyways, till then, take good care of yourself, and bye-bye.